Good evening. Welcome to the Laughing Monkey Music Show. We have John from the Ghost of Sunset. How are you doing tonight, man?
I'm good, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing good. Good. We had a rough start here.
Ah,
So we are going to talk about some of your songs, some of your collaborations, what's going on with you, and just talk about music in general. Kind of what we
yeah,
do.
I
It's a
love
music
it, man.
show.
I love it.
It's good.
I love it.
It's good to talk about music on a music show. So let's start with what you got going on with the band. You
Right.
got your EP and your
Yeah, the
Golden Robot.
Golden
Yeah.
Robot. Yep, the EP just came out on Golden Robot. We released what was it? Three singles.
Yep.
Three singles off it, and then actually right before the release of the full EP, we released Headed West as well as kind of a fourth single right around the time that the whole EP came out. But it kind of started its life. My partner Todd Long and I, who have formed Ghosts of Sunset, we've been making music together for 30 plus years, kind of across a bunch of genres. We've played rock and roll. We were playing hair metal when it was, brand new, and we've made rockabilly music together and alternative country music and toured the country together. And I came in one day and I said to him, I got on the phone with him. I said, listen, I had an idea. What do you think of a concept album based around the life of a fictional hair band? And hair band's about the only name we have for it, right? No one's come up with anything better.
I know it has any hair in the band, though. You guys
exactly. That's the funniest thing, So I don't know. And you know what? A lot of our peers from that era are in the same boat. You know what I mean?
Everyone does it. I know.
Some of these guys, I gotta say, some of these guys really, though they aged well, they look killer.
Oh my God, yeah. Some of them look great. They look better.
I know.
They're in their 20s.
Rock and roll keeps you young, I guess. But
Keith Richards.
Now, looking young might not be something we say about Keith, but
no.
Yeah, so I said to Todd, I said, let's, what do you think of this? He liked the idea. Within, I'm going to say 24 hours, we had the skeleton of our first single, which was Miles in Between. And it just snowballed from there. It really organic. We've been in the business long enough to have pretty realistic goals and realistic ideas about how the business works. So at no point were we going, well, we'll get this done and then we'll get our private jet. It wasn't like that. We just wanted to do it and really do it right. And that's when we kind of got involved. We finished the first song. We're like, man, it really could use that. I play lead guitar. Todd plays as well, but stylistically, it really needed that 80s flavor and the technique of some of those guys. And the first person we called was Johnny Monaco, who's in LA Guns and Enough's Enough, and who's just a musical genius, man. He's great. He can do anything. And we just said,
I agree with you. So actually, people can watch it. I interviewed him.
He's great. He's
fantastic.
So funny. He's got a great sense of humor. He's an intelligent guy, so dry and witty. But we just kind of sent him a message that, hey, if you like the song and you want to play a solo on this, that'd be great. Well, he loved the song and played a solo for us. And of course, nowadays, all this stuff happens in cyberspace. And we just kind of kept going from there. We write the next song and went, man, who'd sound killer on this? Tracy Guns. Let's get Tracy Guns. And the premise is always the same. If you like the song, we'd love to have you. If you're not into it, don't waste your time. Don't waste ours, And we got really lucky. That's where we got all these special guests. And it just grew from there. Adam Hamilton came on board, helped us a great deal. And really, Adam has become a friend of the band. A lot of guys we grew up on. We're of the age that we grew up on this music. We were covering it when it was new. It just means a lot to us. I was thinking about it today, thinking about coming on talking to you and thinking, this is the changing of the guard is happening. So, where it used to be, you had your Jimmy Pages and Jeff Becks and, the great 60s, 70s artists, now the people in the business like Adam Hamilton, Tracy Guns, Johnny Monaco, these are guys who are are assuming those positions both as, studio musicians, as live
Hmm.
musicians, as, dare I say, icons, man. I mean, in my
Oh,
world,
yeah.
and I'm sure yours, and Tracy Guns is an icon, and those people, it was also a chance for us to kind of give a little back to them. Just to thank, they don't need us, they don't need us to somehow, bring the spotlight to them. They have the spotlight, but for
Oh,
us,
yeah.
it was a chance to really say, this is music that was important to us.
Yeah, I get
And
it, and that's it's a great bunch of musicians. I mean, I look at it, it's like looks like the guest list that I had in my show, pretty much. Or if I
right.
haven't had, I will have,
Yeah,
hopefully.
right.
So,
Which is great, which is great.
so
It
I feel
says
the
a lot
same
about
way.
your show. It says a lot about your show too.
So,
And same thing with your show. You know, folks like us, like yourself, like us, like the other podcasters we spoke about before we started recording,
mhm.
you know, we're moving into these roles now where where the music we grew up on is, classic rock or whatever it might
Right.
be now, which is shocking, right? Since we're all so young in our minds. Um,
I was
but
saying the other day, you walk by your mirror, you're like, who's that old guy looking at
who
me?
is this old guy?
That creepy
Right.
old guy looking at me.
Exactly.
I'm not, yeah.
Exactly. That can't be me. Um, but that music now has, I think the time has come for an examination of that genre of music. And when you start looking at it and listening to the music, I say this all the time, you can't deny a good song. You
Yeah.
can, I think we can both agree that maybe some of the clothes were a little silly at times and the hair was a little crazy. And, of course, we all remember the interviews where it seemed like everybody was trying extra hard to be
Yeah.
cool. Um, but when you strip all that away, the songs are rock solid. And you know, if you don't believe that, I use the example of, so many people disparaging comments about, the pop metal of Def Leppard. But yet when Pour Some Sugar on Me comes on in a hockey arena in between periods, the whole arena sings it. They
Yeah.
sing the chorus. Um, that's not hair, that's not clothes, that's not makeup, that's not chicks, that's not drugs, that's songs. And Ghosts of Sunset, that's kind of where we're at. It's about songs. It's about developing characters. It's about, taking listeners to some places, because we grew up on not just that kind of music, but I grew up on everything from Bruce Springsteen to Hank Williams to, the Pistols and Mott the Hoople and Bowie, and
Well, that's the
and
thing
those
where
were,
we were
go
in. That
ahead.
was our age group. That was our age
Right,
group.
right.
All
And
that the '80s had great pop music, like
beautiful. I mean,
different, like Men at
beautiful.
Work, and like you get like totally different artists, both pop music. Like you
Right.
weren't like that, and that was great.
Well, and it was funny. I was a metalhead growing up, I mean, that's
I
what
was
I
too.
was into.
Yeah.
I was a metalhead. And yet I could still appreciate the fact that Duran Duran wrote fantastic songs. The videos were great, the songs were great, the look was great, the whole thing. Um, Culture Club. You say
Mhm.
what you want about Culture Club, but those songs were fantastic. You know, he could sing. He had soul in his voice, and the
Yeah.
songs moved like old Motown songs. I could
You know,
hear that. You know,
I'll say this, and this is just so you know, there's no such thing as guilty music, and I've already gone on a tangent
right?
with Stephen Piercy. I've already gone on to my love of Duran Duran,
Oh,
and
yeah,
me and Neil Zalza, the show hasn't come out. We were just talking about our love for Rick Springfield. I
yeah.
have
Oh,
there's no there's no window. It's all the window's open. Like there's nothing. Everything is fair game
yeah,
when it comes to music.
yeah.
It's just a
Well,
song.
it shouldn't be a guilt. There should be no guilt in something that
It
brings
was.
you
It was though. It was like this is shaming. If there's an artist I don't like, and there's lots of them, and I'll
sure.
be like, I got nothing to say about them. They're still doing their stuff. It's not my
Right,
business. I got
right.
the energy for other stuff, and I like stuff from classicals, the thrash, the Slayer, and all everything in between.
Yeah, like we said, a good song's a good song. You just can't
That's what it's all
deny
about.
that. And God, those artists made great songs, and
Mhm.
we in Ghosts of Sunset, we're not. It's funny. I talk to Todd, my partner Todd, a lot, and I say stuff like, you know, we're not a glam metal band. We're not supposed to look like a glam metal band. But that's where our roots are, and that's. But every time I listen to something that we do, and I go, oh man, I can hear Faster Pussycat or Pretty Boy Floyd or whatever
Mhm.
early Motley Crue. I can also hear Slade and Mott the Hoople, and I can also hear some Zeppelin, and I can hear the Beatles and the Stones, and the people that we grew up on. We have to remember they weren't, Faster Pussycat wasn't influenced by Faster Pussycat. They
Yeah.
were influenced by the Faces and the Stones and early Aerosmith. And so we really wanted to make sure that our music kept its roots in that style. But we also wanted to be able to develop characters, to tell a story, to not make everything, as much as I love those songs. I love Girls,
Mhm.
Girls, Girls. I think it's a great song. I think that's
Right.
that's at my age right now, I don't know that I need to be covering that topic.
No,
Um,
the relatability to it. It's you don't have to, and you also don't have to relate to every song that's out there. You can just have fun, like Right
right,
Said Fred.
right,
I don't walk around thinking I'm too sexy. That's a
right.
catchy
Well,
damn song, though.
speak for yourself.
Well,
Me,
maybe. I don't
I'm
walk
far
around
too
in a mesh
sexy,
shirt singing it.
far too
You could,
sexy for this shirt.
oh, dad bod. There's
Yeah,
no one walking around like that. That ain't happening.
man, and that's the thing is we just sometime in music, and I don't know, probably a lot of it for us was when the shift from our 80s music to like grunge music came, and then some of the people like myself who loved that 80s glam rock, hair metal, whatever,
Hmm.
our noses got a little put out of place because we were now seeing artists who didn't care about the show, who didn't
Hmm.
care about the look as much, who did. And to us, I grew up on rock and roll that was big, even, Zeppelin and the Who,
Yeah.
and that was big music. Then in the 80s it was always a show and a lifestyle, and it was,
Yeah, I
it
agree.
wasn't,
I think
you
things
know
changed too at that time. And I
I
think the
think you
problem, a few things happened. And, say, A, it was mishandled by the record companies because they looked for the bigger, better things. So they dropped everybody. There was a lot of bands that could have continued on and done well in that period.
right.
Two, rock ate itself.
Oh, for sure.
It got preposterous with a copy of a copy of a copy of a band.
Right.
It got to the point where the third and fourth generations, there were some good musicians, but they were being put in that category like, get a deal, you have to look like this way. And it wasn't who
Right.
they were. I mean,
Right.
or they put a band that wasn't that way. They marketed, Little Caesar. They're trying to make Little Caesar a band that they're not. Little
Right.
Caesar's always been a bad band, a badass band,
Right. A rock and roll
but not a rock and roll badass band, bluesy rock, down and dirty, like their song, and make them like a glammy rock band. That's not fair.
Well,
They
and
deserve
the
so much
funny
better.
thing, it's so funny that the business end of it is what did that, and to their defense, a band like Little Caesar or the Four Horsemen or a lot of these rock and roll bands. I mean, to me, Little Caesar could be the Black Crows. Little Caesar could
I
be
agree. I
the
agree.
Georgia Satellites. It could be that. Um, I hear more of that music. As a matter of fact, man, and I'm sure you saw it too. Um, Little Caesar just did a live stream for it was some guitar, either
Yeah.
like Diodario
Black Star.
Strings
It
or
was Black Star. It was actually Black Star. I actually
yes, it
recorded
was
the show.
Black Star.
I had him on. I had him on before the show, so we
Oh,
talked about it.
they just they
They
just
killed it.
laid down the rock and roll, dude. They just
And
played rock and roll.
Ron pretty much put out how the record label kind of put them up on a shelf and kind of put them in a
Yeah.
bad spot. So they
I
got
saw
screwed.
them live. I saw them
Oh,
live back in the day. They
they're so good.
came into town with Kiss. Yeah,
Yeah.
they were a great band, and you knew that the influence was there because they were covering Chain of Fools,
Yeah.
and so you knew there was a depth that was a little deeper than you know yesterday. They had some musical depth and
Yeah.
some tastes, and that's big for. I think when you're making music or you're making art or whatever, I just read a Ghost of Sunset review, and they name checked like Bon Jovi, Enough's Enough, and Cheap Trick, and I thought, well, that's
Thank you.
perfect. That's perfect. That's exactly. If you'd have said to me, well, name some bands you like, I'm always
Mhm.
gonna. If I'm talking rock and
Yeah.
roll, I'm always gonna talk Cheap Trick. I'm always gonna talk. If I'm talking grossly underrated bands, I'm always going to talk about Enough's Enough.
Mhm.
A grossly underrated band.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of these bands were, and I thank goodness, I didn't have to sit in some A&R guy's office and have him go, you better get some flannel shirts, you better
Yeah.
cut the sleeves off that shirt, and you better wear combat boots and shorts.
And not having an image is actually having an image.
Yeah, right. I mean, right.
That is your image.
It's so weird because I
And I
grew
like
up
some
like
music from then too. You know, I mean, there are some bands from that
oh
period I
god,
do like. There's
I
a bunch
love
of them.
Pearl
Pearl
Jam,
Jam, Alice in
Soundgarden,
Chains,
Alice in
right? Alice in
Chains,
Chains,
the big ones. My
right?
favorite band of the era, um, my favorite Seattle band of all time was Mother Love Bone, but
Oh, they're
they
great.
had, you know, Andrew Wood had his feet planted in the Bowie and Mott the
Mm-hmm.
Hoople and Kiss and you know um
You know,
Queen.
him and
So
Chris used to live together. Can
I
you imagine
know.
that? They used to
No,
have a song. They write songs. Who could write more songs? Could you imagine the energy in that place with those two
no,
guys writing songs? Oh,
no, no, I can't. And
that was crazy, huh?
it's the same story that I remember hearing about when Jackson Brown lived either above or below Glenn Fry of the Eagles. He said
Mm-hmm.
every morning he'd hear Jackson make a pot of coffee and sit down at the piano, and he'd hear the progression of a song. The morning would start out with an idea, and by the end of the day, he's playing Running on Empty. You know, and so I'm sure that's what it was like for Andrew and for Chris, but a lot of those guys didn't get the props they deserve, the respect they
Yep.
deserve because of the haircuts or not Chris Cornell or Andy Wood, but certainly Janie Lane from Warrant.
Oh yeah,
You
I
know,
agree.
a guy who I've said a million times, we lost Janie Lane because we couldn't let him grow. We could not let him get past. The record label asked him for Cherry Pie, and he delivered it. Instead of going, well, that's really impressive. The record label said, give me something like Love in an Elevator. And he came back with Cherry Pie. That's a songwriter, man. There are guys in Nashville right now that someone goes, hey, dude, we need a song about a tractor. And the guy goes, all right, I'll be back in a couple hours with a song about a tractor. Janie Lane was the same thing. It's just, we had to keep him in that bubble of 19 whatever, when he could have grown into a songwriter of those, the Nashville proportions we're talking about. He could have wrote for other artists, but the business ate
It
him
was a
up.
dirty word. It was a dirty word for a long time. Now it's
Oh,
okay. He could have gotten away with it. Now, if he'd survived through it, I think, and he got crushed. And
I,
emotionally, he was a very, he
he
him
was
alive.
he had certainly a lot of demons, as a lot of folks do. But the other thing is, it's like I heard Dee Snider say. He said that when the changing of the guard came, when grunge came in and hair metal went out, he said it was like being a surgeon who had specialized in one style of surgery and they
Mm-hmm.
found a cure.
That's pretty good.
That's exactly right. It's like I'm Dee Snider of Twisted Sister. I've made anthem music, these anthems of all time. My
Mm-hmm.
band looks great. We play great live shows. And now you're telling me my hair is stupid, or you know what I mean? It's like,
And it's hard. The band's tried. They did. I mean, Warren did a couple albums afterwards, and they had
oh
flannels. But
yeah,
I actually thought those albums were pretty good too. But the
Dog
market
Eat
did belly to
Dog.
belly, yeah, belly to belly, yeah,
Yep.
they were
And,
good.
a lot of those bands deserve more. And I'm not, that's just the business. I mean, the business for every Rolling Stones and Beatles, I'm sure, the Hollies were like, why not us? Or,
Okay.
whomever, the Rascals were like, well, how come we're not a 15 album band or whatever?
Yeah.
So that's just the nature of the game. For folks like me, my partner Todd, we're able to make music and not have to. I mean, first of all, there's no concern really about. I want to connect with people who like the music. I'm not concerned about winning over people who don't like the music. That style of me. I'm not out here going, well, what can I do for you? You don't like 1980s music. What can I write for you that you will like? I'm saying this is what I do. This is what we do. And if it connects with you, great. And I want you to come along for this. But I'm in no position
Yeah.
to adjust.
I think with any song though, it's a happy miracle if two genres cross and you hit. It's like it's a perfect lightning in a bottle type thing. But most people are like this with different
Right.
music. Their arms are crossed and that's it. It's already a done subject.
Right.
And arguably, you can maybe listen to it if you're in a car with you, you're going somewhere. But really, for the most part,
Right.
it's not their game, and it's just how you're, how you are.
Well, it's how I'm wired. It's how Todd and I grew up. Our first connection as friends was this style of music. And in 1987 in my high school, there was a real, there was probably earlier than that. I should probably go back 85, 86 ish. But there was this thing was happening where we had the alternative kids, quote unquote, and they listened to bands like
Mhm.
B-52s and REM and the Dead Milkmen and, you know,
Bauhaus.
public. Yes, exactly. And then we had the straight metal guys, and they were into this new music: Metallica, Megadeth, Anthrax, Slayer, Venom.
Mhm.
And then there were the hair metal guys who
Mhm.
listened to Motley and Poison and Rat and Pussycat, and those worlds kind of all stayed in their place. But for me, I really like, I like Gene Loves Jezebel, and I like,
Yep.
early Cult, and I like U2, but I also really like Metallica, and I love Megadeth, and I'm a big
Mhm.
Anthrax fan. I also like Pretty Boy Floyd and, Faster
Yeah.
Pussycat and LA Guns, but I could somehow in my mind I could connect all those things. Um I could hear the cross pollination. Like I knew LA Guns was a sleazy LA rock and roll Sunset Strip band, but I could also tell that Tracy Guns loved Jimmy Page and,
Yeah.
and all that. And that's exactly what I want people to hear in Ghosts of Sunset. I want them to be able to go, well, I like Ghosts of Sunset, and they keep talking about Faster Pussycat, Bang Tango, LA. What is this stuff, And then
Mhm.
maybe some new person might realize that, oh my gosh, there was this music that kind of set the groundwork for this. They go back to LA Guns, and then they go, just like I did. Well, what's that? Where's that come from? Well, it comes from Zeppelin and The Who,
Mhm.
and and that's for me, for guys like you, for people like us, that's what we do. We're never content to go, I like this song. It's like, I like
Yeah.
this song, and I got to know, for me, I got to know, who played on it, who produced it, where it was
I agree.
recorded,
Yeah.
and that's so with Ghosts of Sunset, not only have we gotten the opportunity to write songs, record songs, involve some musicians that influenced us and meant a lot to us, we've also found an audience, which is, in 2021, man, when you in the middle of a pandemic,
Mhm.
when you find an audience, it's man, it is a special thing. And those people, our next goal really is to get out and meet them,
So yeah, so with you guys, your album, your songs, you released your few EP songs
Uh-huh.
last year. Like, was it mid-year last year or something ish? Trying to think of the
I,
dates because you
I'm
staggered them,
trying.
and it's kind of hard for me to lock it down in my
Yeah,
head.
and I'm trying to remember exactly when we released, when we started, when the first single came out.
You were
Um,
we were in COVID already by that
yes,
time,
we
right? We
were.
were okay.
We
By
were.
the first
Yeah.
single came out. So
Yeah, right in the middle of it.
yeah.
Um, which served us well to be it served us well because we had a more captive audience. That's why the TV show Schitt's Creek got so big,
Mhm.
Um, so we had that captive audience, and we also had the opportunity for us to connect with these artists because everyone was home. No one was on the road. No one was touring. So we were able, there were guys at their home studios, um, ready to work and ready to play.
Yeah.
And then we got lucky to get connected with Golden Robot, a record label that within 5 minutes of talking to them, we were like, they understand what we're doing. They're going to cultivate what we're doing. They're going to let us do this. Um, and then, the next thing was, of course we had to shoot videos, quarantine style videos. Those aren't fun. I mean, they're okay, but it's not like a production or
Mhm.
something you can do thematically. It's hard to develop a theme when,
Right.
you're standing in front of a green screen or whatever. But the next real plans, we're wrapping up a full length album right now. Again, same idea, not the concept of a hair metal band or anything, but we've brought in outside people, and the people we bring in are people that mean something to us. It's Mark Knight from Bang Tango and from his own band. Mark Knight's got a new album coming out. He's kind of
I
a
know.
singer-songwriter now. I love
He'll be
Mark.
on. Yep,
I love
he'll be on.
I,
It's like this is an early preview of other shows that are coming. Mark's coming on.
Good. Well, you make sure you tell Mark Knight that John Merchant was on and talked about him, because
I will.
Mark's become a friend, and he's just I forget how we connected through social media, but I do remember saying something to him like, well, this music is, and I rattled off some strange Americana alt country band, and Mark went, I love that band. And I thought, okay, so Mark had come up just like I did in that scene, in that hair metal hard rock. Of course, Bang Tango wasn't a hair metal band in my mind. They were a lot more than that. But Mark's
another band. They could have Bang Tango should have just gone straight on through everything. There was nothing in its way. But
you know what? When I
digress.
Heard Tango,
Is that crazy?
No, you're right, dude. When I heard Tango, I heard everything from the Cult to the Doors to because Kyle's such a great bass player. They could do the funky Chili Peppers type thing. A band like Love Hate, there's another band. There were just some of these things happened a little too late in the time frame, and then the changeover happened. And then we went through the 90s where that music was, pretty much dead. I mean, it was dead. You weren't gonna. I remember when I was a kid, Quiet Riot came through my hometown on probably the Condition Critical tour, second album tour. And then the last time they came through town, they played the same bar that I played at all the time,
Which is a crime. It's a crime.
It's a crime. And people say, we did a lot of opening slots for a lot of bands, for Lynch Mob and Pussycat and, Tracy Guns. And you do these shows and people go, God, it must be terrible for them to be out here in a van or blah, blah, blah. And I go, dude, it's not terrible for them. They love making music. This is what they do. That's what we do. You just keep making music through it all. So what? You don't have an audience for it, or the audience has gone dormant. You just keep making it. It's like the reason a shark swims, that's what these guys do. And it sucked because the 90s were really hard on them and they deserved more. Through the entire 1980s, we counted on those artists to provide us with the soundtrack to our lives. And every keg party we had and every, bonfire in the woods, we had their album cranking. Then all of a sudden, sometime in the 90s, someone went, that's not cool anymore and you can't listen to that. And if you do listen to it,
we're getting older too, so a lot of this changed. The market changed a little bit at the same time. It was the weirdest time for the storm.
That's the other thing is the audience changes, the age of the audience changes, and what we need from our music changes. Like I said, as much as I love Girls, 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 and I love Lovin' an Elevator, and I love whatever the song might be, Bathroom Wall by Faster Pussycat, that was great at 18, 19. But when you start 30s, 40s, it's really hard when you're, getting your first house or your first mortgage or your first child's coming. It's really hard to think about the dollhouse in Fort Lauderdale. You're thinking about, your mind is shifted to some other things. And we kind of want our music to make those changes too, but still provide us that release from the day to day. And that's the delicate balance we struggle with.
Yes. I think a lot of people do it, though. And that's the market. I mean, I think people like to relate to it. Like myself, you can say I'm a Beatles fan. I never related to a Yellow Submarine. Didn't change things. I'm saying I don't need to relate to music to like a song. Right. I like Motley Crue, but when they went through the change, now the market didn't. Now there's not enough of me at the time or to support them because a lot of them left. Because you're talking about a lot of them, but like for me, I'm like, I like to sell the Motley Crue self-titled album.
Yeah,
I like Generation Swine. I like all the different stuff. I like the fact a lot of bands were mixing it up financially and the record labels. It was not a good deal for a lot of those guys.
Right. And that didn't matter to you because you're the person that, from a musician standpoint, from a band standpoint, you're the person that we're looking to connect with. And that's like we were talking about with Ghosts of Sunset. The people who get it are people that we need to connect with because they've shown that they stayed with it, So when they hear those Motley and Bon Jovi and all those influences, it touches something in them because those things are directly connected to good times and positive memories. And that's why, that's why I can still put on that music and get that joy from it. I can still make that style of music and get joy from making it. And when someone says, well, I hear Enough's Enough and Cheap Trick and Bon Jovi and Bruce Springsteen, I go, thank God.
Oh.
I didn't waste all those years listening to that music and somehow not absorbing it. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to absorb it. So when I decided that I would write songs, I could put that out and then take some of me and put it with it. And the next person and the next person and the next person,
Who are your
Chris Robinson go ahead. I'm sorry.
Who are your country influences of? I can hear a little country in it too.
Oh, country.
And I'm not saying this is country music either. I can just hear a little like old school country because I like the old Hank Williams. I like Willie Nelson. So I go like that way.
I probably spent 10, 15 years playing Hank Williams, Merle Haggard, Dave Dudley, Willie Nelson, Waylon Jennings, Rodney Crowell, the Flying Burrito Brothers, the Byrds. That's, to me, all of those things are as important as I can put a band that I love like the Flying Burrito Brothers. I can put the Flying Burrito Brothers and Graham Parsons right next to Faster Pussycat. I really
agree,
can.
But I think all those bands you name in that genre is the old outlaw country that they probably hear the most, is really the touchstone for what we have of Americana right now music.
Which is my one of my favorite genres would be Americana, singer-songwriter. Bands like, Lucero and the Drive-By Truckers and, Blue Mountain and Whiskey Town and the Jayhawks and Uncle Tupelo and, Jason and the Nashville Scorchers. They're just Jason and the Scorchers now. All that stuff really, I could hear it. When I heard Jason and the Scorchers for the first time, they were covering a Dylan song called Absolutely Sweet Marie. And it was big rock guitars and big rock drums with some twang. And I went, okay, I'm into that. Nikki Sixx was an outlaw. I mean, he lived on the fringe of society. So did Waylon Jennings. I could see that in both of them and appreciate that in both of them. Any artist who's willing to stick to their guns, there's a Motley reference for you, that willing to stick to their guns, that's kind of an outlaw attitude. And the reason is it's way easier in this business to go, just tell me what to do, tell me what to wear, tell me what to write, I'll do it. I need the money, I need the fame, just tell me how to get there.
Is that how American Idol starts? Is that the contract for American Idol?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. American Idol is basically going, I want all the fame, but I don't want any of the heartache. I want
but they're
all
honest.
I
don't listen to it, but they're honest.
Well, that's just not how rock and roll was when I was growing up. Rock and roll had, was mysterious. It had some hardship. You could hear, tales of what it was like for everyone. Jimmy.
You were going to mention the Black Crowes. You mentioned Black Crowes, and they come up a lot now still.
I love them. The Crowes. Even Def Leppard. What was the big tour that was going to be before the coronavirus hit? It was Motley Crue, Def Leppard.
Yeah.
Motley Crue, Def Leppard, Poison.
And Joan Jett.
Yeah. There you go. That was called the Stadium Tour. They were going to stadiums.
I have tickets that I have not used. Yes, I know.
Oh, man, that's amazing. That's amazing. Bon Jovi, same way. Def Leppard. These bands, man, you just can't deny a good song. I don't care. Bon Jovi, when they wrote, Living on a Prayer, John had big poofy hair and so did Richie, the whole band, and yet the story of Tommy and Gina is as universal as they come,
Well, you know what that is, right? That's actually Desmond Child's story.
There you go. That makes perfect sense. So he wrote.
Well, he actually told me. He co-wrote it, and he said that Tommy and Gina Well, Tommy was actually, it was really Johnny, because Desmond's original name was Johnny. But John was doing the
Oh,
writing. He goes, we can't have that. It looks it's like I'm thinking about myself. Gina
oh
was
yeah.
actually his wife at the time, and it was going to a whole diner, and literally it was kind of biographical, and
Oh my God, that's
that's how
amazing.
that goes. And there's a line that says it doesn't matter if we make it or not. At that time, prior to that, there was a point in his Desmond's life where he was in a cult,
In a
and
cult?
yeah, in a cult. I said,
Oh wow.
and the mantra was of the person in charge to say, it doesn't matter if you make it or not. It doesn't matter if we make it or not.
There you go.
And there you go. Yeah, that's
That's
right.
what
See, Jinx, living on a
that's
prayer.
that's dude, that's what genius songwriters do. That's what genius songwriters do. That's how universal themes come up. Going back to country music, it's Harlan Howard would have been the
Mhm.
he would have been the Desmond Child of that genre in
Yeah.
a way. And it was him. He's sitting in a bar with, I think, Willie Nelson, and someone said Heartaches by the Number, and he took a napkin and wrote down Heartaches by the Number. That's what that's what the great ones do. The Neil Youngs, the Bob Dylans, the John Bon Jovis, the Desmond Child, the Holly Knights. They're out there. They've always got an ear, you know, to what's going on around them, so they can take in. I found it with the concept idea of Headed West of the EP. I found it really awesome to be able to write someone else's story and not have to worry about what I did that day. I found that kind of freeing, even on the new album.
But you
Um,
had a point of reference, though, because you were in the time period, so it was easy to make it a relatable thing
I
without making
I
it
knew
personal.
I knew the stories, and I knew what it was like, and I remember, I can remember people leaving town, musicians leaving town and coming back 3 months later, 4 months later. Hey, I went to LA, I'm back. I remember buddies telling me they'd been out there and there was an Eddie Van Halen on every corner, and it's like, an Eddie Van Halen on every corner. That's crazy. Um, so I knew that I had those things, and Todd and I love that music so much, and we speak the same language, so our references are so similar that we can get to the meat and potatoes a little faster.
How are you gonna tour and play this
We're
music? Because
talking
you've
about it
got
right
the
now.
bar is really high with all these musicians.
Yeah, we've talked about it. It'll probably end up being a band that we pull together. Um, Hopefully, we're looking for a certain caliber of player. We're also looking for, people who can hang, of course. And we're grown-ups. So the road for me now is a different place than it was 10, 15 years ago. Um, I now have gotten to the point where I sort of surround myself with grown-ups, you know. Um, so we're looking for, and we have ideas and people
Yeah.
kind of in mind. You always have your dream musicians. You have, and you have to think about someone who can play the parts and recreate the songs and bring something to the table, but it's always been that way, and that's why when you find that other musician like I did with Todd Long, when you find that person you connect with, you hold on pretty tight because, again, it's speaking the language. It's me being able to say to you, hey man, you know, play that guitar part, have it start off kind of like Patience, but then
Mhm.
I really want to kick into something that's a little more bass heavy, like, My Michelle or whatever. And you go,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I know what you mean, dude. It's not necessarily talking about, you know, uh, chord progressions and flatted fifths and, the middle eight and, the minor seven. But it's still the language of music, and you need someone that knows those references to make that music.
I think it's funny because generationally, I think a lot of bands have actually done that I've spoken to. They're like, certain musicians have got into, to fill a gap in the band, like a legacy type
Right.
of national band. And, they'll say, well, this person came in, also it's nice because you always find a hot shot guitar player. There's always somebody better.
Yeah, sure.
While this is a great guitar player, they also know our references. They know our generation. There's a fit. And a lot of bands, the new rock and roll is not partying all night. It's being a
No.
nice, kind, hardworking, session friendly.
Yeah.
That's really what those are the ones that are working. That's the guys on tour. And it's the
Well,
younger generation coming up that's kind of filling that gap.
it's the Sam Bam Coltons of the world, the young man who's playing with Faster Pussycat now. He's 24 years old, and he's playing guitar for Faster Pussycat. He just played on a single with Alex Kane, who's a legend who played on our new record. Excuse me. But Sam gets it, he has that depth. So when someone like Tammy Down or Alex Kane gives Sam Bam a reference, he knows what that means and where to take it. And that's what we're looking for in a touring band.
He did it. Adam Hamilton, and you got, Patrick Hennison. All those guys are just, they know all the music. They play it excellent. And
Adam Hamilton, is one of those guys that, he is now switching into those roles that our idols had, where, a guy like Jimmy Page was producing records. Adam Hamilton's doing it now. He plays everything. He's been in national bands that he's played guitar in. He's played drums. He played drums for us.
He was drums in the Brian Massacre, Brian Jones Massacre.
Which is
That is some street. Yeah, that's some street cred that nobody has.
That I asked him. Adam and I had a nice conversation, and I said to him, I go, dude, the thing I got to ask you about is the Jonestown Massacre. What was that like? And I thought he told he'd spent a lot of time with Anton. He said, and I said, well, I saw the movie Dig. I don't know if you've ever seen that. It's about the Dandy Warhols.
Yeah, of course.
Of course you have, right? I forget who I'm talking to. And I said, what was it like? And he goes, oh yeah, it was pretty out there, And I'm like, yeah, I could tell. So yeah, I did. I kind of kidded him. I'm like, I don't, as much as I do care about LA Guns and that sort of thing, I'm like, tell me about the Jonestown Massacre, know? And,
when I saw that, I was like, oh my God. Yeah. Well, because, and LA Guns is great. I love LA Guns too. And
me too.
I will continue. And there's been a lot of people in it, but
oh God,
talk to you about it. But I don't know anybody.
No. I can't imagine.
It's like what's the movie with the tornado? Twister. It's like being in the middle of the eye of the storm and then surviving it. And goes, what happened? What was going on inside of that insanity?
It's like being in a band with Twister.
So I mean that is who. And he said, I don't know when he's talking about. He's like, it was just too crazy for him. He's such a nice, chill guy. He's like, he's just gonna do it. Yeah,
I can imagine. I mean, even watching the movie, you're like, when they get in a fight about the sitar, it's like, oh my God.
Halfway through it, I had such anxiety.
Me too.
A tranquilizer or something. Do we have anything that sounds like a take? Cough medicine, something? Yeah, it's just
exactly. Oh my God, what's gonna happen next?
I have the worst. I'd be the worst rock and roll. I'm like, I just want to do the music and I gotta go right to my room. I can't do it. As I'm a recovering alcoholic, so in my drinking days, it was like go, 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 go.
Yeah. And now I'm like, how quickly can I get out of here? And where's the exit? But it's just
for me. Yeah.
It's just, and the business is so different now. I mean, it's so different now, just how touring works, how a band, and we talked about Alex from Quiet Riot, how those guys tour these days. These fly dates, they go in and they hit Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and they go home. And it's not, I don't think the business can fund a 2.5-year tour like they used to.
I don't think anything can, except the Pop Machine, maybe because Live Nation has it. But I think there's been a good resurgence in the past 5 years where it's really kind of locking it down now. And I think it's going to be the way for a while as our generation doesn't get too old. They're probably going to 15. This generation, probably in this music of these bands, probably a good, at this rate, a good solid 15 years of it staying steady or getting better with doing that kind of stuff. Because that's all of us. As long as the artists can still play. I mean, the Stones have kind of raised the bar a little bit in being able to play,
Well,
so, to have the energy, not everyone's going to have that physically, or Ozzy has done it. I mean, just you go on, but your band's like Every Mother's Nightmare. Have you heard their new album? It is it's strong. It's as heavy and as strong as their first album. Like, and I saw them in the first album, so I mean, like, it's so good. Or
that's a good band. Good band.
Or So there's so many of these bands out there, and I was like, honestly, I was talking to Brent. I said, I disappointed. I wanted to see where Faster Pussycat was going to go after that second album. From the first one to the second, what a leap and bounds.
Yeah, agree. And that's another band too. I had friends who liked the Stones and the Faces, and even liked, Bowie and Mott the Hoople and Alice Cooper and all that. And yet they would tell me, well, Faster Pussycat was too glam. It's like, You know, you
Really.
like David Bowie, but Faster Pussycat's too glam. Um, a- a- those songs are still great, man. I mean, I don't care who you are, a song, and I'll pick a hit, but you know, like House of Pain. You know, I grew up without a dad. That spoke to me. I totally
Mhm.
got it all. Um, there was nothing in that song that was let's, you know, go do coke and pick up strippers. Um, so you know that depth was there. I love Faster Pussycat. I, you know, played with them. They're great. I love the band. But I'm like you. I kind of wanted to see what that how that lineup was going to keep evolve. You know, that band could have ended up being like the Black Crows.
Absolutely.
They could have been there were a lot of, you know, the choir boys are still over in Europe
Yep.
just killing it, man.
Spike still sounds the same, just as that Rod Stewart. The fact that they didn't go anywhere is another crime. I mean, they could have been huge, like I said, but Fast and Pussycat could have continued on at that rate. If they continued on before everything crumbled, they could have gone
Hmm.
up towards like an Aerosmith rock and roll swagger band. You
Yeah.
know, one of them.
When they
And
came
there's a lot of
out,
bands.
man, when Pussycat came out, um, you know, I mean, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I had found a band I really
Yeah.
liked. Um, and I did,
First
you know,
album, it was good. The first album was really good, and then the second album, you're like, what? Who's this? Almost like a supercharged version of it. Like, how did
Mhm.
this happen between two albums? That's like a 3 album change for some
I
bands.
know, I know, I know. And again, that was the thing is, like you said, you were excited for the next. You know, I was like, oh man, this is really some of
And
the
they were so young,
songs. Oh
so
my
young.
God, some of those songs too. You know, like Poison Ivy, and I mean, now they had some horns, and you know, they had this
Mm-hmm.
kind of swagger to them. Cinderella's another
Yep.
band. You
So it
know,
was, yep.
I mean, Tom Kiefer's out playing right now, and he's got a
Yeah.
great band, and he's making great records. And to me,
Yeah.
Tom Kiefer's a legacy artist that you know should always be able to fill a theater, should always be able to make records and have people buy them because he's a good songwriter. Damon Johnson from Brother Kane, who ended up
Yep.
with Alice Cooper and Black Star Riders and Thin Lizzy. Um, that's the shift now. Now those guys, you know, the Damon Johnsons and you know the Pussycats and et cetera, et cetera, they're moving into that spot now where they're legacy artists. You know,
Yeah.
and I'm that's what we wanted to do with Ghosts of Sunset. Really, is pay you know pay some homage to that music, to tip our hat to it, um, and to maybe kick it a little further down the road. Maybe share it with one more person. If one person listens to Headed West and they go, Stacy Blades, wow, that's a ripping guitar solo. And now they're on Wikipedia going, Stacy David Blades. Oh God, he's got a band. You know, he was in Roxgang. What's Roxgang? I knew
Yeah.
what Roxgang was, right? I
I
was
know Rock's
listening
name
to
is.
him.
Yeah.
And he's got a band now, and I want to say I want to make sure I'm saying it right. It's either Chasing or Crashing Westward. Stacy Blade's new band, killer band, got a new single out. Mark Knight, all these guys are making music, and I'm hoping that the audience came with them. You know, for Mark Knight, you know, talking to Mark about his music versus Bang Tango, you know, pretty different stuff. But I'm hoping that some of those fans like me who love Bang Tango are going to give Mark Knight that opportunity, you know, um, because he deserves it. He deserves it. It would be real easy for Mark Knight to make the Ghosts of Sunset record. You know, it's a little closer to what he did with Bang Tango, but you know, he's now writing singer songwriter Americana, great rock and
He's
roll
been doing that for
music.
a little bit, I think, and it's
Yeah,
really nice. I just think it's going under the thing. But I think what hopefully is going to help him is the fact that Bang Tango's all together too,
I know.
which is
I
awesome.
know.
But
Which is awesome.
but and the documentary made you feel like, oh come on, what so
Oh,
the
the
documentary,
Attack of Life. Yeah.
yeah, the other one, you're like, oh come on, you'd feel it. Ugh. But
Yeah.
hopefully it'll help bring extra attention back onto him too, because we're all older now, and
Right.
it's not like it has to be hard rock. It can be singer songwriter songs and
Right.
that, because we're all,
Right.
a lot more diverse as adults now, and hopefully
Yeah.
it'll
I'd
kind of
love
lead
to
to
see
enjoy it.
Mark do both of those things. You know, I'd
Yeah.
love to go see Mark's solo band. And I'd love to see the original Bang Tango again.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, after watching the documentary too, you know, it's not an easy life, man. It's not a guy like Joe Lestay, um, who's
He
been
carried the
flying that
flag. He carried
dude.
that flag, right? He
He
gets
carries.
props, man.
He gets huge props. Some of these guys, and it's tough. It's hard to spend the rest of your life singing like you did when you were 18, 19, 20. Vince Neil is a great example of that. Vince was never, you know, Celine Dion or, some great singer, but now add the years onto that and just Piercy's the same way. Stephen Piercy, Rat. By the way, the recent stuff I've seen of Piercy, he's really, you
Good.
can tell he's engaged again and working hard. But we want these people to live in this bubble. Like, how come you're not? Where's your hair from 1987? Or
Right.
where, um, I hope that the people Ghosts of Sunset connect with, and that these artists we're talking about connect with, are the type of people who are willing to let someone age somewhat gracefully. Because the other side of that is when we see a band that won't let go. Then we have, overweight, balding, 50-year-old, 60-year-old people cramming into the old stage clothes, saying the old
Yeah.
banter, and it's silly. I did concert reviews for years and years and years, and I'm a big Eddie Money fan. I love Eddie Money. I loved him. No Control, great album. I reviewed him, and he's at that time, gosh, he had to be, I'm guessing he was in his 60s, and he's on stage and he's saying stuff about, like the girls in the front row, and he's taking the songs and he's going, I wanna do it, and all this. And I'm thinking, dude, that girl could be your granddaughter, I that's not what I'm into. That I don't want. You don't have to be 21 forever for me to love you as an artist. For Bruce Springsteen, Born to Run is probably my favorite album of all time. I don't need him to keep making that. I don't need him to be that. If he wants to make the Ghost of Tom Joad, if he wants to be more like Woody Guthrie, I can make that.
Okay.
I can make that change. There are times I don't make the change. I love a band called Wilco. I love their first
Yep.
4 or 5 albums. Then all of a sudden it was like, yep, they're
What about?
growing.
Did you see Seven Worlds Collide?
What's that?
Have you seen Seven Worlds Collide and listen to the music? This
Uh-uh.
was Neil Finn, singer from Wilco's in it.
Yes,
Johnny
I did.
Marr.
Don't
The
they all move
documentary, and
into
it
a
goes,
house?
yeah, yeah.
Yes, I
They go to
saw a
Neil
little.
Finn's house. There, I'm a big
Yeah.
Crowd House fan too, and they
Oh,
go out there.
I
They make
love
an
Neil.
album. That's a singer songwriter for you right there.
Yes, yes, yes. All those. I mean, like you said, Jeff Tweedy was involved in that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're a great group of people. Yeah, the whole thing, how musicians function together, it really shows
yeah,
the songwriter process, the family, the functionality of writing a song in a hallway on a spot on a day with someone else's.
right.
You as a big artist think is your icon. It's just
A Neil Finn or Jeff Tweedy or people like that. I remember Neil Young, his dad is a writer, Scott Young, the writer Scott Young. And, he said to Neil that he got up every day and wrote. He forced himself to write, and, and so when you're crafting songs, and I'm not, believe me, I say this a lot. I'm not a songwriter. I'm a guy who makes up songs. Um, Jeff Tweedy, Neil Finn, Bob Dylan, those are songwriters. Carole King. But the thing is, when you're doing that process, man, it's not easy and it's scary. It's scary to take that thing for me to my buddy Todd or him to me and go, what do you think of this? And it's even harder for him to tell me it ain't doing it, man. That isn't working, or I don't hear anything there. But as artists and musicians, I think it's a trust thing. So Neil Finn trusts Jeff Tweedy. They see that. A guy like Tracy Guns obviously trusts Phil Lewis with material. It's all based on trust. And because we're rock and rollers, we're not supposed to say stuff about relationships and trust and insecurity. And well, if you don't believe there's insecurity, you go visit Janie Lane. If you don't believe there's insecurity, we have our business is littered with bodies of people who couldn't get past it, and for me too. I call it the Carrie. Remember the movie Carrie?
Mhm.
It's the Carrie moment. You're going to walk out and they're all going to laugh at you, or they're going to dump pig's blood on you or whatever.
I was gonna say the pig's blood part. I'm like,
But,
really?
man, you have to get through that to get to that's why making music is like mining for diamonds almost. You got to clear that away. You got to get down there. You got to, you start with a rock and get a chip on that thing until it becomes a diamond or whatever. And when it's done well, it's timeless. When it's done well, it's living on a prayer.
Mhm.
When it's done well, it's pour some sugar on me. When it's done well, it's Dr. Feelgood. When it's done well, it's Born to Run. It's mamas don't let your babies grow up to be cowboys. It's all of that. And we're just trying, we made a promise to ourselves. Our expectations were just, let's try to do this as well as we can and see if we can connect with anyone. So when we started connecting with people, it was both reassuring and exciting, because all I want to do all day long is talk to people about rock and roll. That's all. So I come on a podcast or be interviewed, and it's like, all I'm doing is talking to people. You and I would be talking about the exact same stuff.
Mhm.
If you and I were standing in line at the grocery store and you happened to be wearing a t-shirt that said, or you had that rock book under your arm,
Yeah.
I'd go, I'm talking to this dude.
That's literally like you're saying this show is like based on a backyard party. You're having a beer, and your neighbor comes over. You're talking to your neighbor about their job. Just happens to be there in music, and it's more of a conversation, and that's and that with that it's been with all artists, all these
Yeah,
artists you've mentioned that have already been on. And
right.
you hear different, and you talk like that. We've gone and talked about different stories, or we've got different stories and a little different in some of the questions,
Sure.
because these artists are real people that we talk
Right.
about. They do have insecurities, and all these things you're talking about, it shows, and you know, it's
Well,
important
to
that people
me,
realize that.
that makes me love them more, to be
Oh
honest with
yeah,
you,
I do too.
is when I get a taste of the real person. I really like, that's why um I couldn't really, I wasn't I love the Sex Pistols, but I wasn't a huge Sid Vicious fan.
Yep.
I couldn't get past that. I couldn't get past that whole, when I saw Joe Strummer and I saw the Clash, that had more weight to me. I sensed something a little more real, isn't the right word, authentic's not the right word, but there was something more to it, something I could grab onto. And it's the same way with my rock and roll,
But
with my hair
the,
metal.
the thing with Sex Pistols is, Glenn actually wrote the music and then left the band,
Yes,
and then they brought in Sid for the
they brought in
tour.
Sid, right? Who through sheer through his own folly, and through just the, I don't want to say buffoonery, because the guy was obviously an addict, and as an addict myself,
Right.
I can relate to that. But a great bass player, no. A great musician, no. Contributing a
Well,
bunch to the musicality of that band, no. Somehow,
it wasn't set up to be that kind of band. Malcolm, when he put that together, he lucked
yeah,
out with musicians that grew out of that. I mean,
right,
Glenn worked at the shop. I mean, it
yeah,
was
at
totally
Sex,
different.
right, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And he'd say things like Malcolm had a great little Rolodex, and he'd have artists in it like weirdest phone numbers. He'd have to do it. It wasn't in any order. It'd be like John Lennon and Yoko Ono, and then it'd be like the IRA, someone so
yeah.
numbered, like the weirdest things. Like
What?
so,
Huh.
like Malcolm had a different idea for the band,
Yeah,
and Malcolm just kind of lucked out that he had a Steve Jones, he
yeah,
had Glenn Matlock, who could write songs, and play, and then and Johnny was good for the time. I mean, Johnny was a different
yes,
guy. Johnny was,
yeah,
I guess, more of a quiet guy. He was not the same Johnny, so it all kind of played in a little bit different,
yeah.
and then it got so big, and then we saw the monster of the legendary Sex Pistols.
Well, and that's the thing too, is that I think the Pistols were more of an art project than a band per se. I don't know that they were designed for longevity. Some of these rock and roll bands are just not designed for longevity. They're they're these top fuel funny cars. They're loaded with this high octane fuel that gets them a quarter mile and then they're done. And, I had a conversation with someone about like Jimi Hendrix, where those people are frozen in time. We
Mhm.
never, ever, never once did we have to go, oh my God, have you seen who's coming to the state fair? It's Jimi Hendrix experience again. Dude, I just saw
Yeah.
him last year.
Yeah.
Oh God, is he lighting his guitar on fire again? Ugh, he's been doing, the guitar he has a guitar he uses just for burning. It never was that.
No.
Those people are trapped in time, and that's good. But it's bad because we also never got to see the elder statesman, Jimi Hendrix, the develop what his guitar style would have developed to.
It's hard. It's hard because very few bands would carry down. Zeppelin stopped early, but
Right.
they also stopped legendary. What would have
Yes.
happened if they continued on or imploded? There's a few guitar bands that started forever. I mean, Eddie Van Halen just died too
I
early,
know. Way too early.
and he was playing. He was still playing good though. He was still carrying on a legacy. There was
Right.
no deficit in the band on that level.
Yeah. No one's ever gonna go, oh my God, remember how bad Eddie Van Halen was?
And I don't think he would have. I think he got a second win with Wolfgang, so I think he was going to go on.
I think so too. You could see a lot of joy in Eddie Van Halen's play.
I've seen him over a lot of tours, and
good.
the joy and the joy in his eyes, man. When
he
back
was
with Wolfgang, I felt happiness.
It was that was a tragic loss, and we've had some, when Bowie passed, when Tom Petty passed, and then you realize that, I think some of it subconsciously is, oh my gosh, man, if those guys are old and dying, I'm getting closer to old and dying. That's scary when you see these. And the other thing is when a Tom Petty dies, or an Edward Van Halen, or whomever passes, we've lost a friend because they connected with us on that level. And that's why music is important. And that's what now, am I looking to connect with people on a level where my passing will cause national mourning? That would be very nice. But more than that, I think I would just like someone to be able to go, dude, today was a tough day. I barely got through this thing. On the way home, as soon as I get in the car, I'm going to put on Ghosts of Sunset. And I won't, I'm not going to be such a jerk when I walk in the door at home, because that's going to give me a little joy. I think that's simple enough. And it's all I need, that's all I need, because that's all I was getting from the great artists I loved. Mm-hmm. They were just giving me, as a, poor single parent kid with no voice at all, and no real identity, all of a sudden, like, rock and roll. When I found that, it was like, this is what I'm going to be. And you can, there's still people that went to school with me who'd go, oh, Merchant. Yeah, he's a rocker guy. He's a music guy. All he ever taught. I don't know anything about sports. I don't know, I don't know how to change the rear end on my car. I don't know how to, build an addition on my house. But I can tell you what amp Jimmy Page used on Led Zeppelin 1, and I can tell you where I was when I bought the first Faster Pussycat record. And I remember when Dr. Feelgood came out, and I remember standing in line to see Kiss, at the arena, and what it was like to get in and run all the way down and run to the front and try to be right there. And to me, that stuff it's more precious than gold. I mean, not to be too silly about it, but it is.
No, but you get emotionally connected because you listen to music, it's in your headphones, so you have a relationship, that some weird connection. And music's got me through everything, good and bad.
Yeah, amen.
So, so when are we expecting this album?
Well, we've got probably, I would say we've got 2 or 3 songs to wrap up. The other ones are in the can, mixed, mastered, the whole thing. This is going to be, we'll present it to Golden Robot. We'll cross our fingers that they're willing to proceed with us through a full-length release. And I'm guessing summer. If I were a betting man, I'd say we'd see it summer. We are going to try to get out and play some shows. Again, it would help it would help me. For 35 years, I've played, from 1990 something right through probably 10 years ago. It was at least every weekend. Last summer, it was 4 or 5 days a week. And then to go to nothing is just like, it's like slamming the brakes on. but we want to get out. And again, I want to go out and play these songs for people because we're going to have this same conversation. We'll just be sitting at a table or behind plexiglass or in a bubble, who knows, but you know, that's it. That's what we're doing. These songs have found an audience and continue to find an audience, and we're just going to nurture that and deliver to those people something authentic. And that's all we're trying to do, is just be authentic, just be real. That's why I've got friends who play in rock and roll bands, and I love them, and I love the look, and I love all of the pageantry of it, you know. But where we're coming from is more of a place where you know, we can talk about the songs, and we can talk about the origins of the songs, and we can talk about why Johnny Monaco is so cool, or we can, you know, we can listen to Never Goodbye from Ghosts of Sunset and hear Tracy Guns and go, man, you know, Tracy Guns. And, you know, when he put that solo down and I listened to it, my first thought was watching the Rip and Tear video, you know, on MTV, and thinking, dude, Tracy Guns, man. And when Tracy Guns cut his hair short, and when, you know, all that stuff. So we just want to keep this thing going. We want to keep making music. I want to be able to talk to people like you and connect and say, hey man, this is what we would be doing anyhow. If we were out in public, if you and I were at a concert, you know, how many concerts are probably the one place in the world I've hugged more strangers than anywhere else, you know. I've high-fived more strangers. I've, you know, back in the day, you know, I've drank booze that strangers had, who, you know, I could remember not caring what was in anything, you know. But there was something about that sense of community. And when my wife and I were driving last night, believe it or not, and there's a pickup truck in front of us. Back window of this pickup truck had the Rat logo. And I said to my wife, I mean, I literally went, holy, that truck's got the Rat logo. And, you know, I went, that's great. That's great. This person is like, I could have talked to that guy in that truck, guaranteed. And I bet we could have talked if you'd have put that person and I in a room and said, you got an hour together, I'll bet you at the end of that hour, we'd be going, hey, give us another 15 minutes, man. We're talking about Rat, you know? So that's what the whole Ghost of Sunset thing is boiled down to, is just folks like you and I and the people who listen and the artists who made this music. It's God, it's just so great for me to keep what Chris Robinson from the Black Crowes calls the big song, to keep it going. And the big song is always going. You just kind of reach up and pull your part down and you move it along. And, you know, is it a pipe dream to think that right now some 13-year-old kid is listening to Ghosts of Sunset and going, I think I want to play guitar? Yeah, that's a pipe dream.
Why not?
If that happens, I've totally done my part. Because I remember
happen? It's got to be happening. A cat video falling over on a banana or farting will get 3 million. Somebody's watching your video saying that.
I think so. I hope
I'm not saying the bar is raised for you either, a little cat video or something.
Are you? So, I'm going to tell you, Ghosts of Sunset's never going to get farting cat numbers. No, we can't.
They can't. Those are numbers. Yeah, the more ridiculous you get, the harder it is to match that kind of stuff, you know.
Yeah, man, that's it. That's the goal, and that's why if we get an opportunity to speak to someone like you, or you know, of anyone who is supporting this music, man, all I can ever say is thank you. And I can and I can say, you know, on behalf of everyone who played on the record, on behalf of the music I love, when you further this thing, if one other person gets what we got from it, I just can't, I couldn't be happier, you know. And, you know, would a private jet and tour bus and, you know, women and cocaine be sweet? Maybe, but I also have to be in bed by 9:30 because I get tired the next day.
I do too. Cocaine would not work with me. It just
right. It just
messes up my body.
Sounds like more hassle than it's worth.
Oh,
you know?
I eat too much. Yeah, if I have too big of a grinder, I'm getting meat sweats. I can't deal with cocaine. Nitroglycerides are my enemy. Yeah. So.
Oh, I got a foot long and I feel terrible. Yeah.
That's basically that's how it goes. You know.
Oh, we're a sad case, aren't we? We're
it's
a sad
okay,
case.
It's okay. I want to thank you. When you
Man,
guys are ready, you'll have you come back on and we'll talk about
oh
your
man,
album.
we'd love to. And thank you just for taking the time and again for the show and for what you're doing. Um,
Yeah, lost your for a
sorry,
second.
my
It's
whole
okay.
thing freaked out there. Yeah, I just again thank you for having me and for
You're welcome.
doing what you're
My
doing, man.
pleasure. I enjoy
This
it.
lockdown and you know, podcasts and music and have just made all the difference, and you're part of that. So thank you so
I
much,
think
man.
it's important. That's why I did it. I do it because I
Well,
think we all need it,
well, I hope you know how
and the
much
artists need
we
it.
yeah,
Yeah,
I hope you know
I
how
do.
much we appreciate you. I'll send you some links, but again, Ghost
Please
of
do.
Sunset on all the social medias, Golden Robot site, our own website. But I'll get you all that.
Yeah,
And again, I just can't thank you for your time. It really means a lot to me, man.
you're welcome. You're welcome.
All
We'll
right.
talk again.
We'll talk soon. All right. See you,
Peace out.
buddy.
Okay, bye.